back-to-back interviews today. I'll probably lose my voice because when I talk too much, I lose my voice, but it's all gonna be cool because I don't talk that much. So I am, gonna talk about Freedom Grooming a little bit. They are a sponsor, and, so I'm bald, and I like to keep it shiny and no 5 o'clock shadows, so I use the Freedom Grooming razor, which I don't have in my hand right now because I forgot to grab it. But I talked about this last intro. I didn't think I could do any better as far as shaving my head in the morning, and then Freedom Grooming sent me the shave oil and their shave cream, and I did everything like they told me to do, like the exfoliating. They got a little exfoliating brush, and then I put the oil on, I put the cream on, and guess what? I got a closer shave, and I even used it on my face this morning, and look at me. I look I know I don't look great. I look like me, but I look clean shaven, and it is 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern. So yeah, I think it looks. I think they do pretty good. And yeah, I've been through so many razors, and Freedom Grooming is the one that I'm going to stick with. I just got my new blades because I get blades every 6 weeks from them, and I'm going to put those on tomorrow. But you can go to Freedom Grooming if you want to shave your head, shave your face, get any of their cool stuff, and go to freedomgrooming.com/ambassador and use the code Behind the Bits Podcast when you check out. You'll get 10% off. I'll get brownie points with Freedom Grooming, and maybe they'll stick with me. And I really use the stuff. And just look at me, I'm bald. There you go. My guest today is he. I met him, I guess, during lockdown times, pandemic times, and we did. I think we did maybe a Zoom thing together, and then he was on my wacky talk show a couple times, the BTB Internet Talk Show that has met its maker. It's gone, but it may come back in another form sometime when I feel like it. But I met him, and he was really kind of just getting started, and uh, he's kind of gone bonkers since then because of his work ethic, and I want to talk to him about that and about how you actually get stuff done when all the other comedians say you don't get stuff done. So I'm going to bring him out right now. It is Dwayne White.
What's up? Good to
Wayne,
be here.
I'm going to
Good.
move you over
I don't know
here.
how I'm going to live up to that introduction, though. I don't know.
Yeah,
He's a hard worker.
yeah.
There's so many bosses right now that'd be like, I don't know if that's true. It's crazy.
Well, your work ethic changes when you're working for yourself.
Yeah,
That's it's a little bit different, but
when you're doing something
you know,
you enjoy.
yeah, I always thought you were super cool when we got together doing the talk show and doing things during pandemic times, and then I just become this fly in the wall that watches what people do. And I feel like there's really two types of comedians out there right now. There's the ones who bitch about not being able to get on shows or get anything booked, and also bitch about other comedians. And then there's the ones who are out there quietly hustling and just posting their shows. And you're the one on the second part of the list that's putting out. I looked at your website, and you got an arm's length long list of things that you're doing, and keep them busy and staying positive at the same time. And I really appreciate that.
the Prozac helps. That's the
Yeah.
main thing. It keeps me positive now. But no, it's good. No, yeah, it's been a good year so far, man.
Yeah.
It's been good.
How do you get yourself into that state of mind? Because comedy is a bitch at best,
Yeah, for sure.
and you get screwed over. People get jobs that you think you should have. All that kind of stuff happens, and it happens to everybody.
Yeah.
How do you rise above that and just keep hustling and making things happen?
Oh man. I mean, I think, I mean, part of it probably just has to do with the fact that I'm a little older
Yeah.
than most, you know. So it's one of those things. I mean, I always joked when I started comedy. I was like, you know, everybody says, "Hey, it takes 10 years. It takes 10 years." I'm like, well, I don't have 10 years. I could be dead in 10 years, man. I don't know, you know. So like, that's cool if you're 18 to have 10 years, but I don't know. I just think. As far as as far as just keeping a positive attitude, I mean, I'm very lucky. I have a lot of good friends around
Mhm.
that help me out and keep me positive, because it's like everything else. I get kind of down sometimes too. I kind of made a joke about this weekend. It's like, it was a great comedy week. A lot of cool things happened. And then I'm like, I know within 24 hours, I'll be sitting there going, I suck. I hate my life. So, I mean, it's just a weird mentality that we have. So, I mean, I have a really good comedy community here in the DC area. At the place I run, I kind of try to run it like a family, and we're very supportive to each other.
Mhm.
And just being in, I started with this nonprofit called Armed Services Arts Partnership. It's how I started doing comedy. I teach their classes for them now,
Mhm.
and it's just, I mean, and we really try to build a community, even
Mhm.
more so than build comics, because some of these folks are taking it. It's just a bucket list thing. They want to do it one time, give it a shot.
Right.
But we try to really build a community around that, and that's helpful. We have a big veteran community around here, so I mean, that keeps me positive. I think in
Mhm.
that sense, when things are going bad, you can call somebody and go, "Hey, man, do I suck?" And they're like, "No, what's shut up." Look at, and they go, "Look at your calendar." I'm like, "All right, that's fair, but still, I feel like I suck." And they're like, "Shut up." So it's good, man. It's like anything. I think that is it's anything I've ever done in my life. I think that was difficult and was good. It was, if I was successful, it was because of people around me. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And you can't just be that lone ranger. You'll go crazy
Right.
and get in your head. So it's nice to have that, I think. So
Now is being community minded like that and getting with people and networking, does that come natural to you?
yeah, I mean, it does and doesn't. I mean, yeah, yes. I mean, to a point. I mean, I'm definitely an extrovert,
Uh-huh.
in that sense, and just I think really being in the military and the types of units that I grew up in, where it was really small units and tight teams and
Mhm.
all that, it really kind of stuck with me, and that idea of it's more of who and how to get things done, and building those relationships, than it
Mhm.
is maybe being the guy that's the highest ranking, or the guy that's that's technically in charge. It's that idea that I just like the relationships are what's going to get things done, and
Mhm.
I think that's helped me a lot in this world, for sure.
Mhm. Now, when you first started doing stand-up, that was, like, right out of the army, right? Or
No, actually, no.
oh,
I was
okay.
so I was still working. I just started. I retired from the army in 15, and I was a contractor for a while. Then I was a government employee for a while, and then I started doing that when I was a government employee,
Okay.
um, which is hilarious because it just does not really go together at
Yeah.
all. But no, I kind of stumbled on the ASAP thing, and yeah, so yeah, and I was still working in Department of Defense at the time.
Uh-huh.
I kind of felt like I was still in the military, but I just had a beard. It was about the only difference. But
Yeah.
it was crazy. It was big shout out to the razor company. I need one of those today.
Yeah.
But it's no, so I was definitely not in, but working around them all the time, still. So
Yeah, it's your transition is, so much like I made friends with a guy since I moved down to Huntsville. His name's Carmine, and, he was, I think he was Army, and for a long time, and then he basically got stationed here at Redstone in Huntsville, and, then he retired and took the same job as a contractor and is doing the same thing he did before, but making more money as a
yeah.
contractor. He actually came to an open mic with me last week,
Oh, cool.
and it's the exact same story, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I did a lot of the similar things. Not at first when I was a contractor, I didn't, but when I was a government guy, I was doing a lot of the same stuff, and I
Mm,
think that's probably what told me. I just was like, "Nope, we're done with this. I,
yeah.
wa- I'm done. I did this long enough." And yeah, it just was. It was kind of killing me to do the same thing. I was like, "No, I don't want to do this anymore."
Yeah.
So I mean, it works for some people. Some of us, it's just like, "Nope, this is too
Right. Yeah.
much." I did this long enough. I don't need
Yeah.
to anymore.
Now, when you first started doing stand up, what, what was behind that? Why did you want to do it?
Oh, well, to be honest with you, I joke. I was like, I had a terrible childhood. No, um, that's my parents didn't get along. No, I'd always wanted to be a comedian, honestly.
Uh-huh.
Ever since I was a little kid. And I kind of grew up watching Richard Pryor and Robin Williams and listening to Eddie Murphy like in the basement, where I couldn't get in trouble for listen to it. But I'd always wanted to do it, never had a chance to because I tried to go to like some open mics when I was a kid, but you had to be 18 to get into the bars in Dallas where I was living.
Mhm.
And so I couldn't go, couldn't try it. And I just kind of forgot about it. And I was
Mhm.
actually having conversations with my son. He was about to graduate high school. We were going through all these like really, deep conversations about do what you want to do. Don't be, because I was miserable in my government job. I was like,
Mhm.
don't do like I did. Don't chase the money. Don't do this. I was telling him to follow his dreams. And like I even told him, I was like, I wanted to be a stand-up comic. I never got a chance to try. And then one day I just happened into a coffee shop up in DC, and there was a flyer for ASAP. It was like, hey, would you like to try stand-up comedy? Are you a veteran? And all that. I was like, oh, well, I would be an absolute hypocrite if I didn't try this and give it a shot. And it was
Uh-huh.
blast. And it was like, we throw the term life-changing around, but it was. I was like, okay, I'm going to give it a shot, see if I'm any good at it. I'll probably suck. It won't be good. I'll go, but at least I can do it. And I fell in love with it. I mean, it just, it's the best drug on the planet,
Yeah.
as you know. So, I mean, and here I am. So,
And did you just dive right in and just keep going, or did you do it for a while and say, "Okay, I've done it," and then get drawn back?
No, I mean, I jumped in with both feet. I mean, I did the class and had an absolute blast with it. Met a bunch of great people. Started doing the open mics. Now, when I first started, I was doing like, okay, I'll do 1 to 2 open mics a week. And then as it got going, I'm like, okay, I'll do 3 or 4, and I, start booking shows. And you're like, next thing you know, you're doing comedy 5 or 6 nights a week, and multiple shows and stuff. And you're like, this is the best thing I've ever done. This is so. It's
Uh-huh.
just it's one of those things where it's like, you know, the more you do it, the more you want it. And
Uh-huh.
you just keep doing it for me. So, I know some people can go in and just do it for a while and back out, but I can't imagine not doing it every
Yeah.
week. It's just, I don't know. I love it that much, I guess.
That's great. Now you're getting people that wanna work with you, like Josh Blue,
Yeah.
and what what type of networking do you have to do to get in front of people like Josh?
Oh, well, I'll tell you, man, the thing with Josh just fell into my lap, to be honest.
Uh-huh.
And it came from the military side of things, actually. I got a buddy of mine who was on the shows that we did in Colorado, and we're going to do the shows in where are we going? Florida in October together.
Mhm.
He's an Army veteran. He went through the same program as I did a few years, or maybe about a year before me. And he had done some shows with like this basically through Gary Sinise Foundation.
Mhm.
The Lieutenant Dan and all that.
Mhm.
He has an awesome foundation, takes care of vets, and he had done some shows in like Alaska and Hawaii, and he put my name in for this show. And next thing you know, they called me and were like, "Hey, do you want to go on this mini tour out in Colorado with Josh Blue and Adam?" And I was like, yes, I do. And Josh and I just kind of hit it off. And then when he
Uh-huh.
came out to DC, or he was in Richmond, I went down and did a spot with him down in Richmond at the Funny Bone. And then when he came to DC, or he did the Arlington Draft House, and I got to feature for him the whole weekend.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those lucky things that fell into my lap that I, just was lucky enough to take advantage of. So it's been pretty cool in that sense. So
Yeah.
he's a great dude. He's such a fun guy to hang out with too. He is he's crazy. He's so
Yeah.
much fun. So we have a good time together.
That's great. It's funny. I did, and this has been over a year ago. I did that thing for Tom Dreesen's book. I did
Yeah.
that little special. Gary Sinise almost dropped in.
Oh man.
I was working with his agent, and I mean, she was 100% all the way up until I think 2 days before the show, and then she said he couldn't do it, and I talked to Tom about it, and he said, yeah, some shit happened, and
That's the way it goes.
so I missed it. Yeah.
Stuff went down, and
Yeah.
no, it's been awesome. And I mean, that dude has a heart for the troops, man. I mean, he
Mhm.
really does. And
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to meet him in person yet, but I mean, just the stuff he does, for the soldiers, and well, for the troops in general, and then just putting these tours together, it's super fun. And
Mhm.
I hope, and Josh did the same thing the other day. We were talking, I hope that these continue to happen, because they're a blast. They're an absolute blast to go to, especially as an Army guy. I mean, like,
Mhm.
I was stationed at Fort Carson when I was in the Army, so we did a show out there, and it was like going home. And
Yeah.
then this tour, we're actually going to be down there at Eglin Air Force Base, 20 years almost to the day of when that's where the last phase of Ranger School is. And it's almost 20 years to the day of when I got out of, or when I was down there for Ranger School. So we're going to go and
Wow.
check that out. And it's going to be a much better experience. I'm going to have food and sleep, and it's going to be so much better. We're going to check it out. It's just cool how that stuff kind of works out,
Yeah. Yeah, that's really neat. Now, you talked about the community you have there in the DC area. Is that a community that, like, because you're running shows and stuff like that,
Yeah.
is that something that you helped to build, or
I
was it
mean,
there and you became a part of it?
no, I mean, to a little bit of both, I think. I mean, there was a community there, especially when we start talking about vets.
Mhm.
But the comedy community in general here is pretty good. I mean, every comedy community's got their weird cliques and the strange
Mhm.
stuff that happens, right? But it's a good scene out here. It's not just like there's a handful. There's a lot of folks, and you can do comedy somewhere here every night of the week. There's
Mhm.
something going on, or multiple things going on. So it's a good, it's a good community. I mean, I think I built some of it. Like, when I started my room down here, I live about half hour south of the city. And when I started my room, we were one of the only things in town,
Mhm.
just because it was right at the end of the pandemic. I started up, Virginia was open, but DC wasn't,
Mhm.
so a lot of people came through here, and, we started, it kind of became this place to hang for comics. And, I kind of try to run it like a family,
Mhm.
in a sense, and I'll have comics come over for dinner, or sometimes, or Thanksgiving or whatever. I kind of go into that old military mindset where I'm like, I just want to take care of, they're
Yeah.
all kids. A lot of them are just kids, so I
Yeah.
want to be, kind of be that. And I'm older, and so so my wife and I run it together, and it's kind of like our family, in a lot of ways, in that sense. So yeah, I guess both. I'm kind of rambling, but yeah, I guess
Uh-huh.
both. It was there, and I kind of helped build some stuff in it, but
That's really nice. It's always kind of a cool spot to be the old one in a comedy scene, and I
sometimes.
mean, you're kind of a baby compared to me, but it they kind of I think some of them are just nice to you by default, because they think you're like, with me, they think I'm their grandpa, with you, maybe dad, but then when you get to know them, and, um, they find out you're as twisted as they are, you're just
Yeah, for sure.
older,
Yeah,
and you know how
probably
to
more
control
so
it.
in a lot of ways. But yeah,
It's
it's funny, like, when they first, some of the younger folks, when they come in, it's like I had one guy in particular. He was like this 18-year-old, just graduated from high school. He was like,
uh
"Mr. White, Mr. White," I'm like, knock that shit off. Like, let's stop that. We're done with that, dude.
Yeah.
I don't need that. But no, it is, it's cool too, because some of these kids are even younger than my kids, that are
Uh-huh.
coming in. So it's cool to watch them and cool to talk to them. They, they got a lot of energy and no life experience. So
Yeah,
one of these days when they
yeah.
they'll be good.
Now you said a half hour south, so I'm mapping things. Is that Alexandria?
A little bit further south than that. So like I'm in Woodbridge.
Okay, okay,
yeah, right off of 95.
okay.
Right, yeah. So
My daughter's in Falls Church, and
okay,
you're one of them I've wanted to have coffee with, and there's a few of them in the DC area that I've wanted to see when I'm there, but my grandkids are there, and I'm
yeah, you're busy.
always just 100% consumed by them. And but I'll get out one night, and we
Yeah.
normally just spend a weekend there anyway. So
Oh, man, let me know
yeah,
next time you're coming out for sure.
yeah,
We'll
yeah, and
we'll hook you up.
I've never seen a show in DC.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've been to the cigar bar there and a couple other places, but I've never gotten to see a comedy show there.
Oh man, you got to come out. I mean, there's comedy shows every night of the week for sure,
Yeah,
especially on the weekends. I mean, you know, Thursday through Sunday, there's always something hot going on
yeah.
in DC. So it really is it really is a really good, comedy scene out here, I think.
Mhm. Now, this is a question I ask a lot of people because you run a room.
Uh huh.
You get to see those 18-year-olds, and you get to see the ones that are, they're definitely raw.
Yeah.
They're not a cut gem yet,
Right. Right.
and but you notice these sparks of greatness and diamonds in the rough and all the cliches I can say.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you see that and you're in a position of being able to give advice, and you also see them shooting themselves in the foot right after they do something good.
Yeah.
What types of advice have you given, and what advice would you give to a 20-year-old that just they've got a decent 10 minutes right now,
Yeah.
but they don't know what to do with it? What advice do you give those types of kids?
Man, I mean, I think I'd give them the same advice that anybody starting out. Is just like, and this is someone told me is just be a good person. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
And maybe not necessarily from the comedy standpoint, but just being a good person that people want to be around.
mhm,
It's amazing how far that can take someone in the community as far as if they're trustworthy, if they're on time, if they're you know not being the guy that's harassing all the people in the room and stuff like that, not drunk and high all the time. I mean, I just tell them
yeah,
like be a reliable, good human being, that you'd
mhm,
want to book if you were booking shows. When it comes to comedy, I mean, sometimes I'll offer feedback, but I try not to offer much comedy feedback unless they ask,
mhm,
um, and some people do, where I'm like, okay, here's a spot where you could tag it or,
mhm.
stuff like that. But, because everybody's got their own thing and trying to figure out their own voice. So yeah, I mean, that's really what I try to tell them to do is just like that idea of being a professional and
Mhm.
being somebody that someone wants around.
Right, right. What do you so how did you get the room? Let's talk about that. Let's go back to getting a room. How do
Yeah.
you go about doing that?
I send my wife to talk to him. First. That's my trick. It's like nobody wants to talk to this old freaking middle-aged bearded white guy, but I send in the tall hot German chick and it's like, hey, have you guys ever thought of doing the comedy? Next thing you know, it's worked several times, but no, she's way better. And then she's like, and then it's a bait and switch. And she's like, oh, good. This is my husband. He'll talk all the details with you. It's so great. No, yeah, I think so. We had another room that we started earlier during quarantine when things were still really, they were still kind of closed up, but they were starting to open up.
Mhm,
And she went in and talked to this guy, and it was okay. It was a good room. We did the best we could do with it, but then they shut down. The whole business went under, and this place we just kind of stumbled into it. I knew they had been having bands and things like that there, and so went in to talk to them, and they were great. I mean, they were on board. I went in and was like, hey, we'd like to bring whatever slow night you have. And, they were slow on Tuesdays. I'm like, we'll do Tuesdays. Let's do it. And, the first night we did it, even just comics, you bring in 18, 20 people that they had nobody there, and they were thrilled to death. And then, as word starts getting out that comics are funny and people start showing up, and, you build an audience, and it just kind of took off, and they love it. And they're a great venue for it. We've just, that relationship that we have is so good. They've helped. We've done things there. They've put in permanent lights for us now, and they've put in, different things that, now we don't have to bring in as much equipment, and,
cool.
they're doing a lot of upgrades to the place to make it more convenient for us. They love it. And then, we went from doing just an open mic once a week to, he said, hey, can you do more stuff during the week? So we started doing like a riff mic every other week where people just come in and make stuff up, which is a blast. It's like game night with comics. And then, we started doing showcases there, and contests and stuff. So, I mean, it's just, honestly, I think we just got really lucky with finding that relationship, because they're great. Well, and I'll tell you what helped us the most. This is no kid. Is the head bartender at this place used to be a stand-up comic, took like a 10-year hiatus, and when we came back, now he was great. He's doing comedy all the time, at least 2-3 times a week now again, and sometimes he hosts for me and stuff like that. But it was great, because like a lot of times when at the other places where I'd say, hey, we need to do this, and it needs to be super dark, I need to cram seats in, I need it to be, the lights are going to be insanely bright, and all these different things to make it like a comedy club. And where other places balk, this bartender would be like on the side, he's like, no, he's totally right, like you should do that. It was great. he's such a behind the scenes like ally for us. It's awesome. So he's like, no, it's totally, no, I know it's crammed in, but it's better for comedy. Great. That was so lucky. And he's a great dude, and he helps us so much in that. And he, like I said, he hosts for me now. He hosts shows. He's doing great stuff, and so it's cool to have him as part of the team there. So it's fun.
Yeah, that's definitely, if you know type thing. You just have to know that. So let's talk about your act, because you've got it to a point where you can work with a Josh Blue, and what did it take? Because you talk about the 10-year plan, and then you talk about what you were on, which is a much shorter span. How did you condense everything to the point where you can get your act to a point where you're good enough to go up there?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing that helped me was during the pandemic. Instead of, a lot of comics just kind of like shut down, and like, we're not doing it, and Zoom sucks and this and that. It's like, yeah, okay, fine, but it's what we have. It's what is out there right now, and it's where people are, it's where an audience is. So by God, I'm doing it. So and I just jumped in with both feet, and a couple of friends of ours. I mean, Nick Baskerville, I know he's been on your show. We started a weekly show where we were doing stuff, and it was definitely different, but it was one of those things where I think it really helped that I would do 3-4 things a day from my basement. It was awesome. You didn't have to drive anywhere. You didn't have to go anywhere. Yeah. Okay. It wasn't the greatest laughs all the time, but it was a place to get some reps in. And I think that honestly, I think that helped me a lot during the time. And I definitely saw it right after the pandemic, when people would come out and they were really, really rusty. They hadn't been on stage in 2 years. And it helped. I mean, that helped a lot from a networking standpoint, to be honest, too. I mean, I met you, I met all these different people online, all over the country, all over the world, So, I mean, so that then when things broke, you had a name out there and people knew that, who you were, and you could get gigs. And the key is stage time, right? So the more stage time you could get, the better. So, I think, I guess, does that answer your question? Does that kind of answer your question? I don't know. I just didn't quit. I was like, I refuse to quit,
Oh, you're such a military guy.
Well, it's funny. what happened, we were down on it. I had just gotten picked up when pandemic happened to teach the class for my first, like, as a primary instructor for the Armed Services Arts Partnership class. And we were like, this is gonna suck. This is terrible. We don't want to do it. This isn't how comedy works. Like, we'll start the class this way, but then by the end of the 6-week class, we'll be back in live at the Improv. Everything will be fine. And that was obviously not true. And but when it became clear that that was how things were going to go, they doubled down too. And they said, every Friday night, we are going to do a show with alumni from this program. And at first I was like, oh, it's going to suck, but all right, I'll do it. And then, we kind of figured it out. We kind of worked out the kinks, which made Zoom mics not that bad to go to. The first few really sucked. It was horrible. Yeah. But after a while, we figured it out, and you go, okay, this isn't so bad. We can do this. And that helped get into the Zoom stuff more, which then helped get into the other stuff. And so I mean, as far as condensing it, I don't know. I just go do stuff. As much as like, I have a very hard time saying no to things. If I'm not already booked, I'm like, yeah, why not? Let's go. And then, trying to, made some good goals this last year of like, hey, I'm going to perform in X number of states. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And you just kind of check stuff off as you go and go, okay, I am making progress. Cool.
Yeah. I think one of the big mistakes I see comedians make is they really get married to a bit, even though it doesn't work. And I think that and I don't want to say old people are better, but the maturity and having gone through failures in life and stuff like that, and having bad shit happen to you, I think it makes you a little bit more self-aware, and you can say goodbye to a little bit earlier. Something that you think's funny that just ain't working. I think in some cases when you start a little bit later, that helps bring you forward a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah. Well, and it's funny. We joke about that a lot. It's like, no, you should just keep telling that same joke the exact same way and don't change it at all. Eventually, people are going to get it. No, I don't think that's not the point. You're supposed to be changing it, working it out. That's the point of a mic, man. You're supposed to be figuring it out. But yeah, you see that a lot where it's like, no, I'm just going to keep saying this bit about my genitalia over and over and over again. And someone will laugh. Like, okay.
Yes. Yeah, someday. Now I met a guy down here that he's a vet and has some pretty severe PTSD, and he pretty much says that if he didn't start doing comedy, he'd be dead now. Have you, in teaching that class, have you run into people that's changed your life?
Yeah, I mean, we're very careful to say, like, hey, we're not therapists. This isn't therapy.
Right.
It's therapeutic, but we're not therapists. But yeah, I mean, you see guys come in and I don't know that. Well, yeah, no, for real. I mean, yeah, I've seen some folks that I know that are in the program or they went through the program that are definitely like, they have PTSD or they have, difficulty dealing with stuff that the comedy and even more so the community. I think, I don't want to say just the art form. The art form is helpful, but the community that we build around it is also super helpful. I think to these folks because, especially for the veterans, we want to be, we want to realize, hey, we're not alone. And DC is a weird place. There's a ton of us out there, but DC is a weird place where everybody just kind of scatters to their own corners. And it's not like, a smaller area where there, where you can feel like you're part of a family. It's very easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle out here. So, having that I think has helped, and just, even people that don't continue to do comedy, or maybe they just get in and because, the organization teaches different art forms too. So they get in through comedy and they go, oh, well, I'm really a writer. I want to go take a writing class. And then they get in with yet another group of people but you see them coming through shows, even people that haven't done comedy in years at this point will still come to shows, still hang out with people. And it's very cool to watch that, to see that community. I mean, we had a guy, he started our class due to some family things. He had to leave after 1 week, but it was like the first time he had done anything publicly in like over 15 years. Like he was just that kind of he's shut in with his anxiety and stuff like that. And, it's just like after just a couple of weeks of talking to us, then he had to leave the class. But even then, he came out to a show last week. And it was like, okay, this is awesome. Somebody, just because somebody from the community called him, was like, hey, can you come out? You want to go to, and yep. Okay, cool. And it's that stuff that I think helps more than anything. So,
right. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes that's all it takes is somebody to call and say, I'd like to see you. And
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just take the room down. Sorry.
Yeah.
Serious. PTSD. But no, it's cool to watch that, man. I mean, I'm very passionate about, seeing people that may not step out of their comfort zone, kind of step out of it and live their life where they kind of been sheltered because of, the self-inflicted sheltering, based on stuff that happened to them. But yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah. What's the best compliment you've got from a big name comic?
Oh man. That's a hard one. I don't know.
This is different than the talk show, isn't it?
Yeah. Wait for Dean Martin. It's like, damn it, Dean. I studied for Dean. No. This is I will say the first comment I really remember getting that it was funny, and I don't know, is he's a big name here in DC. Ramin Mustafavi, very good dude out here. He's great. He's kind of one of my mentors as well. But the first time I saw him, I've been doing comedy for like 3 months, and he's known for being very blunt and very direct. And he walks up, the first show I'd done with him, he walks up, he goes, hey, how long have you been doing comedy? I'm like, since it was June, or I was like, since like March. He's like, and even that was kind of a stretch because that's when I started class. It was like really like 2 months. He goes, you didn't suck. I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that compliment, sir. Thank you so much. It's like, you didn't suck. I'm like, I really appreciate that. But I mean, and Tony Woods would give me some compliments. He's out here all the time, and that means a lot when Tony says something good. But yeah, it's weird, when a comic just being told you don't suck is a compliment in the comedy world.
Yeah, for sure. When I first started doing open mics, I would drag my wife to every one that she'd come to, and the only question I'd ask her at the end of it was I the worst? And if I got was I the worst even once, I was just going to quit. And I was never the worst. And I was definitely in the bottom of the pack sometimes, but
there's always somebody worse than you.
Yeah.
For young comics, there's always somebody that sucks more than you. That's hilarious, dude. Yeah, that'll put a strain on a marriage, going to an open mics all the time. I feel bad for my wife because she sits there through all of it, like now, because I go out and talk to the comics and hang out, and she sits there, she lights them and everything. I'm just like, you poor woman. Like, she's a glutton for punishment, man. That's okay. But,
so what does she think about the whole thing? She's definitely supportive, but how it's a nighttime job. And
so we went through a few phases. I will say that everybody in my house has yelled at me through tears at one point of like, all you care about is comedy. So I'm like, well, comedy doesn't talk back. But no, it's in the beginning, I think she was less supportive. She's like, okay, cool. It's another hobby. Like he's hunting or playing golf or what, something else is just going to drag you away. And I mean, but there was, I don't know exactly when it was, but there was a time when it really clicked, and it just changed, where she's like, okay, this is what he wants to do. This is what he's going to do. And then, then it started, especially when I started talking about, and then quit my day job, to do it full time. She was like, she really, and she was very supportive on that. And it really turned a huge corner. And, just at one specifically, just like she turned, and now she's like, this is what you do. This is your job. So, even when I'm like gone last week on short notice and, and gone 3 days before that trip, it's like, she goes, hey, this is your job. I get it. It's fine. And so it's actually really nice to have that support now, because I mean, like I said, early on it was a little touch and go, but
Mhm.
it's awesome now. And this, to be perfectly honest with you, this is the first time I think in our entire life we found something that we really do well together as a team. Like
Uh-huh.
she's that efficient German,
Yeah.
doing the, she can run things, and she can, she builds stages, she goes down on show days and sets up the entire venue, so it really looks like a comedy club, and does all
Uh-huh.
that. So she's like totally, she does that, and then I can deal with the creative side and deal with the comics and stuff like that. So in reality, I mean, I joke with people like we're the best we've ever been in that sense, because she's part of the team, and
Yeah.
I really feel like we're a team,
Yeah.
maybe more so than we ever were. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
It's so similar to my wife and I because, I was, right before the pandemic, I was, doing shows at a place and, she was there taking money and,
Yep.
doing the door and making sure everything was cool and, helping me with the tables and everything else. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I totally dig it.
Well, it's nice too, because she can be a jerk to people when they come in, and like they don't want to sit where she wants to put them, and they're like, "Ugh," and she can get mad because if I have to do it, then I'm like, then I get up to
Yeah.
host, like, "Hey, what's going on, everybody? How's it going? I know I just told you to shut up and sit down, but thanks for coming out. I appreciate you being here." It's helpful. They can be mad
Oh.
at her, so it's good.
That's great. I asked this question, on my earlier interview, and I think I'm gonna start asking it more. So as a comedian, your work week is really different than everybody else's work week,
Yeah, for sure.
but you still have to do the stuff to make the work week happen at the times that you're not working.
Yeah, for
You're
sure.
not doing stand up. So what is a typical Monday and Tuesday during the day like for you?
Monday is a really big admin day.
Mhm.
So I do a lot of admin stuff. I get a lot of, for the following week, if I haven't already put it out, because I kind of start my work week for comedy on Sunday, where I'm like, that's when I try to send out the list for the open mics that I'm running, of when they're
Mhm.
gonna, who's gonna be on it, because everything I do is sign up in advance.
Mhm.
And so I send that out and get that rolling. Mondays are, reviewing the Eventbrite pages for the upcoming shows, creating Facebook posts for the open mics, doing for private gigs, although private gigs we kind of answer as they come in, but getting private gig stuff set up, communicating with venues, kind of reviewing the schedule, I try to do a lot of the admin stuff. Tuesday, I try not to do as much, just because I know I'm going to run the mic that night, but
Mhm.
getting the order together, talking to folks. Yeah, just kind of a little less, but still a pretty heavy admin day. So, so, so that's kind of how it goes.
Uh-huh.
Tuesday is really when my comedy week, Tuesday night is when my comedy week typically starts.
Uh-huh.
So I try to go out. I try every Tuesday to go, or usually every Tuesday to go out to lunch with a really good comedy buddy of mine here that lives real close. And, we just kind of shoot the breeze and talk comedy business stuff
Mhm.
and things. But yeah, so Monday is an admin day, man. I've
Yeah.
been doing admin since I got up this morning. So Monday's the least fun day of it all.
Oh, and then you get stuck talking to me. So,
No,
lucky
this is
you.
good. This is
Yeah.
good. I like it.
So when do you write then?
So what I try to do, it doesn't always work out, but I try to do kind of the morning pages bit, from the Artist Way, and from the whole Judy Carter book, where you sit down every morning. So I try to write like 2 or 3 pages every morning,
Mhm.
just kind of free flow writing ideas, and then I'll take those. I'm in a couple of writers groups with some comedy friends, and sometime throughout the week, we'll get together and hash out ideas and kind of bounce things off of each other, throughout the week. And so, yeah, I try to write every morning, and then I try to like kind of refine it, just, maybe before I go to a mic, or before,
Mhm.
I head out. But yeah, I try to do it every morning. It depends on the day, how long,
Mhm.
whether or not that actually happens. But
So hosting an open mic gives you the opportunity to try out new material. So when you're hosting, how much new material do you do versus like some of the tried and true stuff?
So now I do mostly new stuff. I'd
Mhm,
probably say 75% new stuff. But so when I was hosting, so when I first started out, I've changed the way I run my mic a little bit. So when I first started, and I was always the first, I would host from the beginning to the end.
mhm,
I would always feel like I had to, in order to set the tone, I would always do some pretty tried and true stuff. I would try
mhm,
some stuff out, but I would do the classic, let's sandwich stuff in between, new stuff in between old stuff. But now what I do is I have someone else host the first half of the show, and
mhm,
then I come up about the midway through. So so I don't feel like I'm responsible necessarily for, setting that tone up front. Somebody else can
mhm,
do it. And then I can just kind of take over the show when it's already warmed up, and I can play with some newer, I feel like more freedom to play with new bits.
mhm,
And then, I'll still throw some older stuff in there, just a lot of times now, just to practice, because I don't get a chance to do some of the stuff that that I want to play with here and there, just to knock the rust off of it sometimes.
mhm. Yeah.
But then in between comics, I try not to do too much, but every so often I'll get a little riff going, and I'm like, okay, that's a good bit. I'll
Mhm. Yeah, for sure.
make a note of that and try it again.
It's
Try to write
amazing
on it
the
more.
ideas you get from somebody else's, last, bit, you
Oh
know?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not the same thing, but something pops in your
Right.
head. It's
Yeah, you
yeah.
think, "Oh, yeah, yeah, okay, I get this." Yeah, yeah, or they'll start talking about tattoos, you're like, "I have a tattoo joke. I'll tell
Yeah.
it." Yeah, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And so, yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, it's hard work hosting, but it's a lot of fun. You do get a lot of bits out of it, because you never know what's gonna happen in the room,
Mhm.
and what's gonna be said, who's gonna show up, you never know. So it's always one of those things where you're always kinda mining for material at that point.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Now you talked about goals and the goals you had for this year. What types of goals do you have ahead of you that you're trying to get to, and what are you doing to get to them?
Um, well, let me pull off my little sheet. I, I push. So, I mean, I think the ones that I haven't really hit this year that I'm really wanting to do is, I said, write 30 minutes a day, because I wanted to come up with another 45 minutes of like A-level material, which I
Uh-huh.
haven't gotten there yet. And that's one of those things where it's like the more shows you do, it's like the less new material you come up with, because you're just doing the old stuff because you don't want to do new stuff at shows. But
Yeah.
let's see. Um, Financial, I have a financial goal, and that I haven't hit yet, but I will. I'm definitely on track to hit that one. A few more festivals this year that I want to get onto. And one of the things that I've struggled with, that I know I need to do, that's one of my goals, is the social media stuff. TikTok it sucks, but it's there, and it needs,
Yeah.
and trying to get TikTok videos out. And I was like, I'm gonna do 2 a week, and now I'm like, I would hopefully do 2 a month, because it's not a thing. It's like, but I get on there when I can think of something good. And it's funny, because this has made me think of it. There's one comedian who does a ton of TikToks that's here, and he's like, "Hey man, I want to shoot some TikTok videos with you." I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that." But looking at this, I go, I could meet that goal if I actually did this with him. So I needed,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But yeah, so I mean, I just made a ton this year. I really sat down and wrote out a bunch of them this year, and it was I wanted to perform in 10 states, the financial side, do X number of nights every week, host at certain clubs. There was a certain show that a buddy of mine runs here that I really wanted to get on, and got on that. And so, yeah, it's been kind of amazing. It's funny, because I teach, one of my part-time gig now. I do have a part-time gig where I teach like leadership coaching and stuff
Uh-huh.
to the Navy, which I always joke is kind of a waste of time, but it's sorry, Navy people, but and to my company, but it's just like this part-time side thing that I do, but that's fun too, because I get material out of that. But I was talking about, like, you got to set goals, you got to do this. And I was like, okay, I got to put my money where my mouth is on this. And it's been amazing how much that's helped me, because when it's like, oh,
Mhm.
I don't want to go do this show in West Virginia or Connecticut. I'm like, well, you said you wanted to do 10 non, DC, Maryland, Virginia states this year. Yep, I do. And okay, I'm going to Pennsylvania to do a show at a campground. But and it's funny because all those things lead to something else.
Yeah.
Everything spirals and leads to another gig. So it's
Yeah.
always worth it. So it's cool.
Yeah. And congrats on writing the goals down, because it's not a goal unless you write it down.
And I feel like such a cheeseball sometimes, but it does. It works. It actually works. It changes. You got to have those things there, and it changes the game.
Yeah.
It focuses you at least. Now
It's
I haven't done all these things with being a good father and all that, but those are crap goals anyway. They're not measurable.
Oh yeah, you'll never achieve that. Yeah.
Be a better dad. Okay. It's like, I don't know what that means, but just like, spend less in therapy on your children. Okay, cool. That's good.
Yeah,
That's
just
fine.
don't write that down. Yeah. I haven't done it, and my kids are both grown completely, 30 and 31 and 28. Yeah.
There.
Yeah. So yeah. So
we're at 21.
Don't worry about that one.
I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to get through this alive.
So I asked this one once in a while, and I haven't asked it for a while. What 3 things do you know now that you wish you would have known when you first started doing stand-up?
Oh man. What 3 things when I first started doing it? Let's see. That's a good question, man.
Dean gave me that one.
Did he? Dude. Yeah, he's kind of a jerk. I think just the idea of how hard it actually is, how hard the work is that you got to put in. I think everybody, when they first see stand up and they first get into it, start going, hey, this is you just get up and talk, man. It's easy. It's super, super, and you don't realize the number of hours that go into, just refining that bit and getting something to where it's like A level, I think I read one study, it was like 23 hours is the norm for 1 minute of A level material. And I'm like, that checks out. It makes sense, in reality, when we think about it. So I think that would be the one, is just how much work it is. I think, knowing, well, I'll tell you, someone gave me this great advice and I didn't take it for like a year, and I wish I would have taken it, is a way to get on people's shows. If you want to get on shows, is go to be an audience member at their show. And it's amazing how they go, oh, this person came to see our show and they want to get on. And you know what? I'm going to give them. I didn't do it until I'd been doing it for a little bit. And I went to this guy's show, and literally he was like the feature, and he grabbed me at the end and he yells over to the producers, put this guy on a show. And I was like, okay. Cool. So next thing you know, like, I'm doing shows with them all the time. And I think I think the last thing I would say, just like not to take things personal. And I think especially when you start, like, and I know this now as someone who books shows and runs shows, it's like, dude, I'm not like out. I mean, there's a handful of people that I'm like, I will not put that person on, right? Because they're just a jerk, or they're whatever. But is the idea of like, it's not personal 99 out of 100 times. It's just that, like, it's that person is not thinking of, they have so many people that they can choose from to put on the show. And, it's, in a lot of ways, it's whoever's in their brain at the time, which kind of goes back to the second point of like, be visible,
Yeah.
But it's that idea, you're like, why am I not on this show? Why am I not getting on this show? I need to, and it's like, sometimes you just got to reach out and go, hey man, I'd love to get on your show. 'Cause they're not thinking of you at that point. In time. And once you get in their brain, then they start thinking about you. So I think that is, it's such a, it's hard not to take personal when you first start. You're like, I should be on all these shows, I want to be on everything. And it's like, well, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
but yeah, so I mean, I guess those are the top 3. I was cool. Nothing about joke writing, nothing about being funny at all. Just like, here's the business stuff I've learned.
Yeah. Well, and that stuff's important. It's always so overlooked, especially when you're new. You don't think about that stuff because your head is in trying to just be funny. And
well, and you don't know what you don't know about the environment. You don't know what it is. And you're just, and I think we all think at the beginning where it's like, oh, people will just call me. They'll see how great I am.
Yeah.
And they'll call me, and you're like, but it's just like that little email of like, hey, your show's awesome. I'd love to do it sometime. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I'll get you on, you know, next show. Okay, cool. Thanks. You know,
Yeah.
weird because you don't think of like reaching out because you see all the things in the movies where it's like, oh, you just get found one night.
Yeah.
Like, you're the greatest I've ever seen. Like, maybe not.
I don't think that's happened to any comedian.
No, probably not.
No accidents in comedy. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. It takes a lot of work, man. It's a tough gig, man.
Yeah.
It's a
for
tough
sure.
gig. You gotta love it. I mean, you gotta love it to do it. And
Yeah.
you know, you see people that's like, you can just tell like, okay, that person's gonna be in for about 6 months and then they're gonna get tired of it and the games and stuff. I mean, you have to just love it, you know, and not be able to
Yeah.
really do anything else. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It's been great catching up with you. It's probably been a year since we talked.
I think it has. Yeah, it's been a long time.
It's been a while. It's been a rough year for the move and everything. So I kind of just crawled within myself and didn't do anything for a while except for try to find a place to live. So that was
well, I'm glad you're back out doing it, man. This is cool.
Yeah, it's you're definitely right about being rusty though, man. It's rough.
It is tough to go back out after a while. I do that for like a week's vacation. You're like, you know, oh, I forgot the whole second half of that joke.
Yeah, and last week when I invited Carmine to go with me, I called my wife and she was in DC with the grandkids, and she said, "You doing that open mic?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, what you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to do all new stuff." And she said, "What are you doing that for?" And she was right.
Don't say that. Don't give her that satisfaction.
Hey, after 40 years, I
hear you. No, I hear you. That's fair. That is fair.
But thanks so much for doing this. It's great to catch up. And you know, I don't know if anybody else notices, but I tell you what, I've been noticing the hustle, and it's neat to see good things come from it. And I think you're the right guy to get it. So I really appreciate you know, the fact that you came on my stupid show a couple times, and we kept in touch, and it's really great to see you just doing as well as you're doing.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
Now, as far as I got your website up, and it'll be in the show notes. Where can people find you on the socials?
Socials. So DewayneWhiteComedy.com it's got all my shows and stuff listed. So that's the best place to go to see where I'm going to be. But then on the socials, I'm White Dewayne Comedy. On Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that. So if you just got to reverse it, it's
cool.
White Dewayne Comedy. So
excellent. Well, thanks so much for doing the show.
You bet. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And let's get out of here.